Okay, aviation kids. Here's what we're doing today. We're gonna have a little talk on the discussion of World War II to now and general aviation, what EAA is all about. Hopefully, you got everything done from yesterday on history of flight, blah blah blah. Hopefully, you're caught up with that one. So anyway, going back to the notes. So this is where we're at here. Going here at the end of World War One. The whole point is that aviation aircraft absolutely took off. It exploded as far as technology and the whole rest of it. You started getting what looked like real airplanes now. So within 14 years, 16 years, it went from a box kite to a true aircraft. And then the thing is that remember, you had all these aircraft left over, and so they come back to the United States, and we get all the entire country exposed to aviation. And Charles Lindbergh, you saw this, whatever else. A huge media star, really changed. Another thing about aviation, everybody really wanted to know more about airplanes. And that wasn't good enough, so they started flying them, seeing get faster and faster and faster. And we know by the end of the 1930s, war clouds in Europe, World War II starts kicking in 1939. And here is the biggest thing, is the technology now absolutely explodes. So now we're getting aircraft getting up to incredible speeds, and they reach the pinnacle of physics with propeller-driven aircraft. Just can't go any faster. Laws of physics won't really make the propeller or make the airplane go any faster. So they got to switch to the new invention of jet aircraft. And this is what changed everything. So to this day, we're using the same basic idea, just extremely refined jet engines. Germans and British came up with it, but then again, after the war, kind of like World War I, tons of leftover aircraft and tons of pilots left over. Okay, so aircraft travel, everybody wants to fly, and suddenly you can make airlines really cheap and really inexpensive. And at that time, with all these extra pilots, they want to make aircraft for everybody. So all these airplanes right here that you see flying at air shows and whatever else, right after World War II. That's my model of aircraft that I fly. It's 1952, that Tri-Pacer right here. Still tools around, still does really well. Lots of them out there. Okay. The thing they overbuilt so many of them, not overbuilt, but overproduced so many of them, that a lot of these companies went bankrupt over time. They just couldn't sell enough of them, but they're all out there, tons of them. And then these aircraft here that they built at that time, they're still making models of them. And a lot of them went bankrupt because of liability, lawsuits, and just overproduction of aircraft. But the idea this is what we're getting at here, is that, hey, there has always been people, we're in America here, they want to come up with ways of making aircraft cheaper. And one of my favorites right here is this design right here with an old Model A engine, Ford Model A engine, called a Pete and Paul Air Camper. And in the 1930s, 20s and 30s, people started realizing, hey, I can build my own airplane right in my garage, take the engine out of the Model A, and go flying. And home builds really were a big answer for aircraft that you couldn't afford. And what they ended up doing is in the 1950s, I'll back this up one here, after World War II, even though we had all these other aircraft here that they're producing, guys still couldn't afford it. So they still wanted to build their own. So in the 1950s, dude by the name of Paul Poberezny, living in Milwaukee, he built his own airplane and did a good enough job with it that I think it was Mechanics Illustrated, asked him to write an article for their magazine about how to build his airplane. He got so many letters of response to his article, and he started writing back, and enough guys lived in the Milwaukee area. Guess what he founded? He founded the Experimental Aircraft Association. Okay, make sure you know that it's one of the most famous. It is the most famous aviation organization on the planet, and the kicker is it's from Wisconsin. And they used to start to get together in the 50s and 60s. They started in Rockford, and they eventually moved to Oshkosh, and in the process end up coming up with the world's largest air show on the planet. And It's incredible how big this thing is. This is one I tell you about that I fly to all the time. I'm going to add video clips of my kid and I flying up there. I'll put them on YouTube and I'll share them with you. I'll show you some of the things we can see, whatever else. But the point is that because of this whole concept of guys wanting to make their own aircraft, you end up with some incredible designs that these are very, very famous as far as home builders go. Some of these, like this one here, that's take the wife and you to, or the husband and you to dinner in New York for an afternoon. I mean, it's incredible how fast they can go, and you can build them yourself. And anyways, it was a huge, huge thing. But what it did was it really changed aviation because of the EAA. And it is, like I said, it is the most important organization dealing with aviation on the planet. And you're going to do a little research on EAA in the following day or two. And then you're going to watch a video of AirVenture, and we'll wrap up the week with it. But I got a couple of worksheets for this week on home builds and EAA, and then, like I said, the video on AirVenture, and we'll wrap up this unit, and we'll show you how airplanes work. Okay? All right, kids, sounds good.